So, hi ma'am, here's my video explanation for my laboratory number 2. So first I'm just gonna compile the the code that I've written, and then I'm gonna execute it, and I'm just gonna input the numbers as was indicated in the activity guide. So I'm gonna input 2000, and here it says 2000 is indeed a leap year. And then I'm gonna try again, and I'm gonna input 1999, and then it results to 1999 not being a leap year. And then for the last test, I'm gonna put in 2400, and then it will say that it is a leap year. So that would be all for the demonstration, and now for the code that I've written. So first, here is the code. Now over here in these lines are just the usual segments for an assembly code. This line here from 3 to 6 are just some initialized memory that stores some data for the prompts and some messages. Here is the year prompt for the entire year, and then here is the islip, which will be printed if the inputted year is a leap year, and then here it will be printed if the inputted year is not a leap year. And then for the .bss segment, I just reserved memory space and labeled it year input for storing the value of the inputted value from the user. And then over here, the .text segment where all the instructions happen. Now, over here is just some setup routine from the author, and then this part here is just some printing for the messages as indicated in the activity guide. Here just prints the prompt, enter a year, and then we'll call the print string, and then after that it will read the user input, and then once this user input is entered, the value will be stored to the year input reserved memory space. So basically, an overview of what I did in my code is just first, I checked if the inputted year is a century year, and then if it's a century year, it will check if that century year is divisible by 400. And then if it's not a century year, it will still go here. And then next it will check if that inputted year is a normal year. I mean, if that inputted year is a leap year by checking if it's divisible by 4. Then else, if the inputted year is not really indeed a leap year, it will just print that it is not a leap year. So first, over here, you can see this line here. This code here is just for checking if the inputted year is a century year. So what happens here is that first I will just clear out the EDX register for division, and then I will divide I will put first 100, the value of 100 to EBX for the division later on, for dividing it by 100 for checking if the input year is a century year. Next, after the division, the remainder will be stored to the EDX register, and then this is just like a modulo. If the result of that division has a remainder of 0, then that means that the inputted year is a century year. Else, if it's not a century year, the remainder would be different, and the comparison would result to ZF not being 1. But if indeed the comparison result is 0, the ZF register will be set to 1, and over here this code here instructs that it will jump the program will jump to the if century label over here. Then next up, if the year is indeed a century label, it will further be checked. Then what happens here is just I did the same method where I will just divide the year and check if it's divisible by 400. So I just cleared out the EDX register for the division, and then I just moved the value of the inputted year to the EX, since after that division from earlier, the EX value will be changed. So I just moved again the year input value to the EX register, and then I just moved 400 to the EBX register for the division later on if the century year is divisible by 400. So after that division, if the year is divisible by 100, it will result to the remainder be 0, and then if the remainder is 0, it will the program will jump to the if century leap, because that century year is indeed a leap year if it's divisible by 400, if it has a remainder of 1 when it is divided by 400. So it will go here, if century leap label, and over here it will just print out that the inputted year is indeed a leap year. Over here, just move the year input, it will print the integer. So let's say 2000 is a leap year, and then over here just print the is leap message, which is that is a leap year. Then it will print out that. Then after that, so that was the first checking if it's if the inputted year is a century year. Next, if it's just a normal year and not a century year, it will still check the inputted year, and here the same concept is just used here, but this time the inputted year is just divided by 4, and then over here, if it is divisible by 4, it will jump to the if century leap label, and then it will print that it is a leap year. And then after all this checking, after 2 of the checking, it will, if it's indeed not still a leap year, it will print out that the year is not a leap year. So, and then here's just some exit code from the author.